Erica, welcome to the Self-Starter Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited about this conversation.
Me too. It's been one that I've been really looking forward to over here because obviously you've created this massive empire in the coaching space, but your story didn't start from day one of coaching. We have this incredible journey that has led you to where you are today. And I've obviously done some stalking of my own. So I'd love to be able to just spread all of this great information with the listeners. So do you mind just sharing a little bit about who you are today? And then we'll dive into a little bit more of the backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Erica Carrico, and I help women to, I guess, even from the start, to really figure out why they're here. What is their life purpose? What are their divine gifts? And how can they turn that into a business? And then I help them to take that idea and turn it into an impactful six-figure business. And then some decide that they want to scale that business to more of a company, which looks like the seven-figure sort of revenue area. And so I kind of cover all bases, really, so that women can leave their 9 to 5s, create financial freedom, and I guess live life on their own terms and just in a way that feels really meaningful and soulful for them.
That speaks to my heart because that was the journey that I actually went on to come to where I am today. Definitely wanted to leave the 9 to 5 and went on that soul journey to figure out what is my purpose on this world. So I know after all these conversations that I've had through over 130 podcasts at this point that we're not alone here. Obviously,
Wow.
there's a lot of us that are having these thoughts. So because you started and you really niched down in this area, were these thoughts that you were having too?
Yeah, well, from the beginning, I think I remember going through college and I knew that I was here to make a difference. I knew that I wanted to do something different for my life. And I knew that I didn't want to be in a job that I hated. I didn't want to be one of those. I didn't want that for my life. And so I really struggled to even get into a job after college. And I always looked for jobs that were going to give me something, right? They were either going to be fun or they were going to give me an experience or they were going to be challenging and give me an experience. I was always looking for something a little different. But yeah, I did end up landing myself in corporate and did the whole corporate soul destroying burnout experience. And obviously, I don't know how much of my story you know, but that even led to cancer and this whole thing. So yeah, I was very similar. I think I wanted my life to look different. And sort of along the way, I got scared and talked into falling into societal expectations of you need a real job and you need stability and you need benefits and you're going to be starting a family. So don't start your own business and definitely don't go into the coaching world, right? So I landed in corporate recruitment and yeah, that was sort of, I guess, the first kind of big mistake I made in my life.
Disagree with that a little bit because I believe that it might not necessarily been a mistake, but a learning opportunity because you've been able, like I said, create a lot of success and you've known that you were here for something bigger, but I truly believe that sometimes we're given these opportunities as learning experiences that help propel you forward in ways that maybe you didn't even recognize when you were in them.
Yeah.
So your corporate recruiting days, it obviously just kind of propelled that deep feeling inside of you that you definitely did not want that. You were made for more. So how long were you in corporate recruiting?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying. And I think you can look back in hindsight and say, okay, corporate recruitment definitely gave me the foundations for which my business was born and birthed. So I'm definitely grateful. But yeah, I was in corporate recruitment from 2005 or six until 2010. So almost 5 years, I think.
That was a good chunk of time to be able to really lay the foundations and get another skill set to be able to build upon. So obviously you've always had that feeling that there's something more here and that you were looking for that experience. So was there a pivotal moment where you decided, okay, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually living in Australia at the time. So again, I chose to move into recruitment and I was like, well, if I can't figure out what I want to do for work, I'm going to help other people figure out what they want to do. So that was kind of how I justified it. And then I moved to Australia. I was brought over by a corporate recruitment company in Sydney. So I felt like, well, this can be kind of fun too. I can live in a different country and do the thing and still be fulfilling some parts of my soul at the same time. But the economy crashed there a year later than here. So it was right around the 2009 mark. And that was when my fiance at the time and I decided to take a year and just leave. We left Australia. We went backpacking through, I don't know, I mean, so many different countries, Southeast Asia, India, China, all the way over in Africa. We camped in Africa for 6 months, and seeing how people lived and doing some of the volunteer work that we did. I think on that trip, I realized that there was no way I could go back to corporate. There was no way that I could go back to earning millions of dollars for a company that had millions of dollars. And I just didn't feel like I was using my purpose. I felt like I was just kind of wasting my life away.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, there was a quote on your website that said it took me over 30 years to realize my purpose here on this earth. And I think a lot of women resonate with that they know that they're made for more, but sometimes you're not quite sure what that more is. When you're going through all these experiences, realizing that you're trying to find your purpose, like how did you eventually land on what that kind of purpose is today?
Yeah, well, it's definitely evolved. I like to think of our purpose as kind of an onion, right? Like we're really in touch with our purpose to the depth that we know ourselves. And we're always learning about ourselves. We're always peeling off the layers. We're always going through experiences. We're always learning new things about ourselves. And I think as I've evolved and grown, my purpose has absolutely evolved and grown as well. But at the time, I only knew myself at a certain level, right? And so I had to meet myself where I was. When we came back from that trip, we got married, I got pregnant. I actually wanted to start my own business. I had seen a life coach in Australia when I was in corporate and I was really burnt out. I was experiencing a ton of anxiety. My feet would hit the floor in the morning and I would be like, I cannot do another day. I literally cannot do this. And that was a pivotal moment for me of like, wow, coaching, this is really cool. My major was psychology, so it kind of fell in alignment with where I had been, on my journey. But when we came back from Australia, I was pregnant and married, and my husband at the time was like, you can't start your business, and you definitely can't start a coaching business because there's no money there and you'll never make it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I did the safe thing. And I took out $60,000 loan and got a master's degree and went into the not-for-profit industry. He thought, and I thought, it was better to take out a $60,000 loan and then take a six-figure pay cut to move into the not-for-profit industry than it was to start my own business. That's just how society burns in your brain, So that's what I did. And then, I think I felt really good because I was helping people. I was the executive director of 2 different not-for-profit organizations. I was really making a difference in Australia. We moved back to the States. I was really making a difference in the States at the grassroots level. Fast forward 4 years and the same burnout, the anxiety, the depression, it all hit again because I wasn't building my dream. I was still building someone else's dream. And although I was making a difference, one, I was earning $29,000 a year. That wasn't even enough money to live or support my family. My marriage was falling apart. I knew I needed out. There was no way I could support myself and 2 kids on $29,000 a year. And I just didn't love it anymore. I was making a difference, but it was not my dream. And I think that was really that's actually when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Well, I definitely want to dive into that, but I also want to touch on that it's really interesting how society tells us what we should do. And I put that in air quotes because there's no one way to do everything, but it's so interesting that so many of us do choose to go, and again, air quotes, the safe route. When
Right.
I've learned, and I know that you've learned as well, is that there is no safe route to take. So in my experience, I've found it better to bet on myself rather than to put my future in some corporation's hands because I've been laid off twice.
Right.
And when I was performing, I was the top performer, but it didn't matter. It's like, okay, company is done. So
Right.
you're out of here type of deal. And you don't have control over that, even though you're generating a lot of money for the company. It doesn't matter. So I'm sorry that you were not supported to be able to do what you really wanted to do right away. But it sounds like it's interesting how life has a funny way of working out for you in other ways here. But I want to dive into this cancer diagnosis because this is a huge, huge life moment.
It was,
So
yeah.
when was this?
This was 2016. And like I said, I was in a job that I wasn't in love with anymore. My marriage was falling apart. I knew I was going to need to leave. I was breastfeeding a baby. I had a toddler. And I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And the irony is, it was my kidneys, right? And they had said that they'd never seen it in a woman my age before. Out of 7 oncologists, I was the only woman they'd ever seen it in under 40. Normally, it affects men in their 80s and 90s who are past smokers. And I don't smoke. I do. I mean, I just was this picture of health. And so I guess what I really learned was that my body was holding so much. I was holding everything in. It was like I knew I was meant for more. I knew I wasn't doing what I was here to do. I knew I was living life according to everybody else's expectations and completely ignoring mine. I was putting myself last in all areas of my life, and my body couldn't handle it anymore. It was like toxicity was just, and my body couldn't handle it anymore, and it just started turning against itself. And so I realized that if my body created it, there was a reason. And the doctors were telling me it was a fluke, it was a mistake, it was an accident. And I'm like, there's no accidents. This wasn't a fluke. This happened for a reason. And if I don't figure out the root cause of it, it's going to continue to come back, right? So I wanted to know, why did my body create this, and can my body uncreate it? And so I did not do traditional Western medicine. I did not do chemo. I did not do radiation. I did have surgery to have the tumor and half of my kidney removed. But then I took a whole spiritual journey of really getting clear on everything in my life that was no longer in alignment with me, that wasn't serving me, and letting that go. And that was I literally took a bomb and just dropped it in my life and blew it up and just waited for pieces to land in different spots. I quit my job. I started my business. I left my marriage. We moved states. I mean, everything. I lost a lot of friends, built new communities and sisterhoods up. I mean, it was just a full reset and everything that needed to happen.
Well, I truly believe that we are meant to emote emotions. And if we're like holding it in, like I do think that a lot of sickness is caused because of that. And that sounds like exactly what happened to you. But what an amazing opportunity you had to be able to turn it into something beautiful here. But what's interesting is that you said you kind of like a bomb went off, it exploded. So you were going through this transformation, but not the whole, like the people around you. It doesn't sound like maybe they were ready for something like that. So how did you deal with the close people in your life potentially kind of putting up like the big X, like, what are you doing type of deal?
People definitely do that, right? They think that everybody thought that I was crazy for starting my own business. And everybody told me, even my own mom, she's one of my biggest supporters now and like my best friend in the whole world. But she was like, people are going to pay you for that, Erica. They're not going to pay you for that. Like, they're just going to go and do that themselves. And so everybody was kind of Debbie Downer. I think something inside of me just knew, though. Something inside of me just knew that if this is what my intuition and my heart is telling me, it's not going to lead me astray. I don't even know how long I'm going to live. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I want to spend the rest of my time, whether it's 1 year or 50 years, doing what I feel I'm here to do. And so it was kind of my way of drowning everything else out. And I really stopped talking about everything. And I kind of just went into action mode. It was like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. I'm just going to do it. And then y'all are going to see.
Well, look at what you've done now. So speaking of the
I know.
speaking of the doing, what was the first step that you took? Because obviously there's a lot that you could be doing at first, but I think when people are first starting, they overcomplicate everything. So like,
Right.
what was the first thing that you really focused on in your business?
The very first thing I focused on was figuring out what I was going to sell, right? So what am I going to sell? What am I going to package it as? And what is I didn't want to sell a product. So I knew, what is the transformation that I'm going to create in somebody's life? And for me, the next natural step was coming from recruitment. Well, I did a lot of career coaching and actually was sort of contracted as a career coach through one of the recruitment companies. So it was like, well, I'm just going to be a heart-centered career coach. And I'm going to help women figure out what career they want to actually move into. It sort of, gradually as my business grew, I didn't want to help women move corporate positions, but I wanted to help women leave corporate and really figure out what business they wanted to start and how could they start to fulfill their purpose through impactful work. And that was kind of how it gradually moved towards more life purpose coaching.
Well, and I liked the word that you used is, what is the transformation that I can give people? Because I think so many times when people start a business, they just think immediately, okay, what can I sell? What can I sell? No, what is it, the transformation that I can give to people? Because that's what people purchase. They don't purchase the guide or just like a coaching session. They purchase what you can do for them as a result of purchasing the coaching session or a guide, whatever it may be.
Yep. Where can this person take me? Can this person get me from point A to point B? And when you can figure that out, you've got a service to sell.
Now, obviously, you had a lot of experience in the corporate recruiting days, but coaching this, like, on your own was something completely new. So how did you establish the authority and be able to really show the transformation that you could provide these people when this was something that you were really starting from ground zero?
Yeah. Well, I did get a life coaching certification. So I did learn how to coach through that certification. But then what I did was I took, and I still have my clients and my students that come through my program, they do this, not to the extent that I did. I actually took 9 people through my coaching program pro bono for free. So literally 9 people for free through my 3-month private coaching program. And I did that in exchange for feedback and testimonial. So what that did for me was by the end of 9, and I don't recommend 9, that was a lot. I was a slow burn. I was a very slow learner. But I mean, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 is definitely enough. But what it did for me though was I got really good in those 9 clients. The first 2 or 3 completely bombed. I did not know what I was doing. I think they even dropped out. They were like, this is not working for me. But by client 7, 8, and 9, I had it so dialed in. They were getting incredible results. The testimonials were coming in. I had already, I had some, testimonials, I guess, and social proof to start sharing with people. But I knew I had the confidence at that point that I could create the transformation that I said I was going to create. And that certainty, I think, was what allowed me to start bringing in the paid clients.
That's genius to be able to offer this for free because you are getting better as a result of it. So it's a win-win all around. You're getting the case studies, the testimonials to be able to prove yourself that, yes, this is a coaching business that is worth an investment. And this is the transformation that I've been able to give these people, even when you were really just starting out here.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, it was 1-to-1, right?
Right.
But your business has expanded. You're doing a lot more than that. And I actually happened to hop on a live this morning where you were talking about kind of the difference between 1-to-1 and 1-to-many at this point.
Right.
I'd love to dive into, okay, a lot of people go into coaching initially, and I think 1-to-1 is a great way to be able to learn, to be able to really understand your ideal customer and to be able to get inside their brain. But eventually, sometimes like time is money and you can only help so many people at once with the limited time you have. So you've transitioned your business a little bit since then. So
A lot.
yeah, a lot. So what does your business look like today? Let's start there.
Yeah. So today, I mean, so my life purpose program ended up turning into a group program, which is now an online course. And tens of thousands of people have actually gone through that online course to get clear on what their life purpose is. And then I have a mid-tier program that has, I believe, 208 women in there right now. And that's a year-long mastermind where we help women to start their business and grow it to 6 figures. And then I do have private coaching that is where I take women, usually it's over 18 months to 2 years, from that 10, 12, 15,000 a month mark to 50, 70,000 a month. But each stage requires your business to look a little different, right? So your offerings, like when you're very just starting, exactly what you said, always starting 1-to-1 is great because you can get that transformation for your clients. You can figure out your process, and then what is going to work for one person isn't always necessarily going to work for everybody, right? So it's a hard transition, I think, to make to go from 1-to-1 to group, because all of a sudden you now can't meet that client where they are. You have to take a group of people through a process that works. So once you've had enough private coaching clients or one-on-one clients, I think it's easier to then make that transition into a group because you've seen what that process is and what the majority of people how they move through that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
But so that's how you scale.
So you're saying basically like you're seeing the similarities, the common themes that people are experiencing, so you can address those in the big groups because you have the data essentially to support that this is what most people are struggling with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So obviously you said you introduce new things at each stage of your business based on what you can support. So at what point did you go from 1-to-1 to be able to offering like the coaching and the mastermind and so on and so forth?
I would say about 2 years after I started my business, I had 25 one-on-one clients and a 6-month wait list. And that was when I knew I needed to leverage with a group. So it took me a while to be able to figure out how to run a group effectively. I would say about 18 months to make that transition. And then what happened was people naturally started coming to me saying, how did you grow your business? I started getting a lot of media attention. I won several awards. And then naturally people would just come to me, hey, can you help me grow my business? Or how did you do this? And so business coaching really started coming into play. And then it was in 2020 when I hit another wall in my business where I think I had 35 private coaching clients and a year-long wait list. And I was like crying in between sessions because I was so booked out. I was exhausted. I was so drained. I was earning about $35,000 a month at that time. And I felt really capped. And so that's when Soul Business Accelerator, my year-long program, was birthed. And that program has just been running gangbusters ever since. And that's a very scalable program. So I'm very involved with the women in there during their year that they're in there. But I also have coaches that I've hired who do some of the coaching and teaching inside of that program for me as well.
Well, and I imagine that there's like two ways that you were looking at this. You're thinking, okay, I feel like I'm living my purpose. I'm helping so many incredible women over here. But at the same time, I'm experiencing almost to the point of burnout.
Yeah.
And I have children that I'm trying to take care of. Potentially, like, how do I be like a present mom, but also a successful business owner all at once? So is that kind of what was going on in your head when?
Yeah, well, and that was COVID also. And so I was at a speaking engagement in Australia in March, right before the world shut down. And I was experiencing the burnout, right? I had too many clients. I also found that I was repeating the same thing to all my clients, right? Like I was teaching them the same thing over and over and over again. So it was actually really helpful to hit that wall because then I knew exactly what needed to go into the course, the module part of Soul Business Accelerator. But yeah, so March 2020, I went to Australia on that trip, decided I was going to come home, tell my husband I wanted a divorce. And so I did. I flew home. The borders all closed everywhere. I told my husband I wanted a divorce. And then that was when I was home. I was trying to homeschool kids. He stopped traveling for work. I stopped traveling. I'm experiencing all this burnout in my business. I mean, it was a year. I will tell you, it was a year. There was a lot going on.
Okay, so you really accelerated your business, no pun intended on here, during a ton of change in the world and your personal life. So how are you managing this from just a sanity level?
So this is where I come back to when you are living your purpose and when your business is aligned with your purpose, I really think it provides a path of healing for you, right? So for me to be able to focus on connecting with the women in a different kind of a way and being able to find a way to serve and impact more women without destroying me was actually what got me through COVID, got me through leaving my marriage. My business was such a lifesaver for me. And the women that I work with, it was honestly what got me through all of that. And I think when people start businesses for any other reason, I think they struggle. And I think that, a lot of times I see it not work, but when you are starting a business that truly is aligned with why you're here, any kind of challenge that you hit, it's like, okay, how am I going to get through this? It's not if I do, it's like, no, I'm going to, how am I going to get through this? And it can really become a vehicle that heals you and other people at the same time.
I relate to that so wholeheartedly because I've started and grown my business while I was either pregnant or postpartum. And it hasn't been easy, but what everyone has asked me when I'm doing this, like, what's the thing that you love the most about what you do? And it's the women that I've been able to meet. And that honestly is what keeps me going. It's the community that we've just been able to naturally surround ourselves with. And honestly, most of these people I haven't even met in person. They're all my internet friends at this point.
Yeah.
It's being able to surround yourself with like-minded women that are going after what just lights their soul on fire has been the most rewarding thing for me, which it sounds like that has been the same thing for you and keeps you going when the times are tough because they're going to be. That's just life. We have our ups and our downs.
Yeah, exactly.
Life is full of seasons. So you alluded earlier to at the time when you were doing the one-on-one coaching, you had a wait list of about 25 individuals and you were making, was it like 26 grand a month?
At that point, I was probably between 25 and 35,000 a month. Yeah.
So on your website, it also says that your company now earns between 100K to 200 per month.
Yeah, I know.
And that's a huge, huge milestone. And I really want to highlight this because a lot of the women listening to this are earlier in their entrepreneurial journey. where they're actually turning to someone like you to be able to help them get to the level of success that you have seen. And like we were talking about, like some days are hard and you think about, am I ever going to get there? So you're laughing, but I'm sure you've had those things too, right?
Well, and I still do. That's why I'm laughing actually, because it's like new level, new devil. I think no
Yeah.
matter where you are, right? I'm still at the place where, okay, I'm here and I've been at this, I've been here for about 18 months and it sounds ridiculous to think that you'd want to grow past that or have a desire to grow past that, but I do. Anytime you're wanting to grow from where you are, it's really uncomfortable and challenging and can be quite hard.
And a lot of people let fear stop them from
Yeah.
moving forward.
Right.
But again, on your website, I'm just going to totally it apart. But you also said something like you've never really let fear stop you from taking that action, from moving forward. But not everyone has that innate ability to just kind of keep going. So what kind of advice would you have for someone that is experiencing that fear, which is totally normal? It means you're growing, but to really overcome that and just take that step forward despite the fear.
Yeah, two things. Well, two things. So, like you said, know that the fear will probably always be there. And that's a good thing because you're doing something that, you're passionate about and you're doing something that is going to it's going to change your life, right? And so I always allow fear to be there, but I don't let it sit in the driver's seat, right? Like it's always going to be there. It's probably just in the passenger seat. And I can say like, okay, I know you're here and I feel you, but you're not driving the boat here. And then two, I think hire somebody, hire a mentor, hire someone who has been there, who has created what you want to create. I would never be where I am right now had I not. I've always had a mentor or been in a group coaching program or taken a course, even an online course, whatever, just for the guidance and the support. And so then when I do drop into that fear space, I have people to reach out to, whether it be the mentor, other people in the program, or I have a course to go back to. Okay, this course says do this, I'm going to do this, right? So it's like, don't try and reinvent the wheel and do it on your own. I think that that's a big one for me. And if I had tried to do it on my own, I would never be where I am right now.
I couldn't agree more. I think that it's important to invest in yourself to be able to get to and put yourself in the rooms with people that have already been there and done that, because that's just the best education that you can give yourself.
Right.
And clearly you've been there and you're continuing to put yourself in rooms and on stages every single day and not settling for kind of what your business is today. You're constantly striving for more. And even though you're making a really great income today, my guess is that you're not just doing it for the money, but you're doing it for the impact that you have on this world.
100%. I will tell you also, this is just kind of a behind the scenes. When you're at this level, it really isn't about the money. And that sounds weird but you have, at this level, you have higher overhead, right? So like I might be earning 150 to 200,000 a month, but my overhead for my team, there's 15 women who work for me. Through the paid advertising that we now put in place, like we have anywhere from 80 to 110,000 going out. So for me, you're less profitable at this level and you have more stress than you do when maybe it's just you and an assistant and you're earning 25 or 35,000 a month. Like most of that goes home with you. Now the majority gets reinvested back into the business. I pay the team first. I pay for ads first. There are some times where I'm like, wow, am I going to pay myself this month? It's only about impact. And when you do want to scale and grow past here, it's not about the money because you do become less profitable the more that you grow. It's literally about impact. And I've had to really look at that. Like, why do I want to grow? Why do I want to keep taking on more responsibility and more stress of more going out? And it's because I have a mission and I really want to be able to reach 1 million women and help 1 million women to live their purpose. And for me, that's why I keep going. And that's why I keep wanting to grow. It honestly isn't about the money at this point at all.
First of all, that's very powerful. I want to highlight that because it's bigger than you. It's 1 million women isn't a small number, but also that's really interesting to know because I haven't hit that revenue in my business. So I wouldn't know that sometimes they're figuring out how am I going to pay myself this month?
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
I truly believe it takes money to make money, no matter what stage you're in. I think, especially as I've had a lot of these conversations with female entrepreneurs, it's hiring out as soon as you can to be able to make sure that you're really focusing on the tasks that are in your genius zone and let other people do that, because that's how you're actually they're going to scale more quickly. Right. And also continue to have the biggest impact that you can and help others along the way. And I personally like to surround myself with people like you because I believe in like linking arms together and helping each other all succeed. I saw somewhere that really resonated with me. It said someone said that collaboration happens at the top, but competition happens at the bottom. And I actually want to scratch that. I
Yeah.
think collaboration needs to happen at all levels
Yep. Totally.
because we're all in this like to succeed together. This is, at least that's who I want to surround myself with. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's like we all came here, and I guess I don't know where you are in your spiritual, what your spiritual beliefs are, but it's like I think we all came here now. I think we all chose as souls to be here, and we all have such a unique, important role to play. And I think that we're here to bring our original medicine and bring our gifts to the world. And the more that we can really link up and do that together, I think the more powerful that will be. And I really think that that's how we change the world and like raise the level of consciousness of this planet, is by all of us really linking together and collaborating and not viewing each other as competition, but as sisters.
Absolutely. And when we do that, just amazing things happen and unfold for each other and for our own personal lives. So with that being said, I would love to just highlight, what does your life look like today as a result of you finally like listening to what your soul was calling you to do?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess as far as a business perspective, I mean, I have a team that does most of the work inside my business. So I am very time free. At this point, I have definitely created financial freedom. I did get the divorce and it's just me and my kids. We live in this house. I was able to also get my mountain home, which is sort of where I spend my time when my kids are with their dad. I live up, half the time up in the mountains. And I think, everything in my life is just very intentional at this point. It's been 8 years since cancer, since I started my business. And I would say that everything in my life is here by design at this point. And that has just been one of the greatest gifts that my business has given me and my kids.
Yes, absolutely amazing. So it just shows you what can happen when you actually listen to what your soul is craving and really taking that step despite the fear there. So Erica, I know that woman is listening today and is craving to be able to go and work with you in this accelerator or even from the course perspective. So where could they go and find out a little bit more about all the offerings that you have?
Yeah, so all of my programs are on my website, which is ericacarrico.com. And you just go to the little work with me tab and click on coaching programs. And there's like 3 or 4 options there. And then I do a ton of free trainings on Instagram. I'm on YouTube as well. So you can kind of find me anywhere. And just, if you have any questions, just send me a message, any of the places, and we'll always come right back to you.
Well, and I know that's where I first stumbled upon you, was Instagram. I think there was an ad that popped up and it was something that I was just drawn to. It was very warm and welcoming, but also educational at the same time. So for someone that is really starting and growing their business, this is an absolute must follow, must like surround yourself with all this information because it's good stuff. And you have a really great group of women in your community as well. So Erica, thank you so much. Seriously, my soul is just like giggling right now because I really love this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Megan. Such a pleasure.